Tony, maybe following up on your point about emerging scholars, I mean, that has been a priority for the journal also. We've had younger scholars forums, we've had youth-led teaching and researching international or in Asia forums. And so one of the questions that I know all of us get asked is, how do you get published? Because some of our authors come from jurisdictions where there's not really a great tradition of scholarly journals. So Tony, maybe I can go to you first. Advice to younger scholars or emerging scholars who are listening to this, how should they think about preparing their work for publication in the Asian Journal of International Law or indeed elsewhere?
Sure. So I think I want to first pick up on a very important point you made, Simon, which is we're an Asian journal, but we also publish articles which are of general interest in terms of the history and theory of international law on topics like jus cogens or whatever it is, which are important for a general audience. In terms of advice to young scholars, this is a real challenge because in many Asian law schools, there isn't really a tradition of scholarship. And I think all of us have experienced the situation where we've received articles which have been deeply researched, but which don't really have a sense of what an article should be trying to do. And so in that regard, in very practical terms, I would suggest the first thing is read very carefully. Read good journals, read the articles in those journals and learn from those articles. Learn the basics about how to structure an argument, how to develop an argument, how to formulate a question that is interesting and that would enable you to explore issues in some depth. Because I think many of us, we do have a situation where many articles are really quite descriptive. And that serves a very important function because I think there's so much happening in Asia that we need to actually understand in very basic ways what is happening in Asia. So I would simply point to what we developed together, which is the notes and comments section of the journal. In other words, the notes and comments section focuses more on information, what is happening in a particular jurisdiction or what has been decided in a particular jurisdiction. It is not so much a sustained argument, the development of a particular viewpoint on a topic. It is more descriptive, but that is still very valuable. So my suggestion is, have a look at the notes and comments, think about what you can write in that regard, because that's still very useful, and we do publish that. And then maybe that'll be the stepping stone to the next stage, where one thinks more deeply about the underlying issues and can present an argument, a viewpoint about whatever topic it happens to be.
So that raises the question about sort of what we are in fact looking for in an article. So Hsien-Li, maybe you could share some thoughts about the writing of an article, but also about what we do as editors in terms of determining what actually then does get published in the journal.
Right. So as Tony said, they're really, every paper submitted to us before it gets selected for peer review needs to have a real research question. So the team of editors, us and the senior associate editors, Heejin and Maria, do so much work in this. And everyone in the editorial team really tries to help all our submissions get on the way, right? And we try to give as much helpful feedback as possible. So even if it's a reject at that point in time, we will try to give some substantive editorial feedback, maybe diverting it to the notes and comments, which Tony has already explained, but also if the author wants to develop it more fully as a full-length article, these are the critical issues that need to be addressed, and the primary one of which is it needs to have a real critical research question. What is the phenomenon the author is trying to investigate, and what is the methodology of the investigation, and bam, 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 1, 2, 3, this is how it's being explained or being discussed or analyzed in a few different viewpoints, but answering that research question. In terms of more procedural issues regarding publishing or on the way of getting it published, the peer reviews are very important. And if 1 out of 2 is not favorable, we will try to get a third reviewer, and the editor's input is also very important. So that's by way of external review and also internal expertise. But we will look at, well, I guess the editorial team really tries our best to, as Tony says, we try to build capacity, especially from those, those coming from the developing South and the younger authors, but also, interesting topics which need to have an airing in global literature. So we do our best.
Yeah, and I think it's important maybe to emphasize that rejection is a part of academic life. I mean, just among us, hands up, who's received a rejection from a journal in the last few years?
Me.
So maybe I can summarize that if you're aspiring to get published, have an opinion, have an argument, have an interesting question, and at least a plausible answer. It doesn't need to be the only answer. And if you're agreeing with everyone else, then maybe you should rethink it. If you haven't yet published an article, if you don't think you're ready for that, the notes and comments describe an interesting phenomenon. We have this section of the journal precisely because we want to raise awareness, but also offer opportunities for publishing. And if you're even a little bit intimidated by that, possibly the best place to start is a book review. So we do book reviews, and a book review is a great way of getting, my first publication ever was a book review, and you get a free book. It's a bonus. So that's something worth doing as well. And then as we think about our role in the journal, I think I speak for Tony and Hsien-Li when I say that, yes, we want to publish outstanding, impactful, original research, but we also want to create opportunities. And so even though we can't publish everything that gets submitted, when we do reject, insofar as it's possible, we reject with constructive criticism. And I know when I've been rejected, it's disappointing, but when I go through the material that I've been given, often it ends up leading to a much better publication in the end. So, Tony, any last comments before we wrap up this brief little celebration? Unfortunately, we don't have a cake, but any comments to potential readers, potential submitters and authors before we wrap up?
Well, I would simply say, if you haven't really encountered the journal before, please give us a viewing. And in terms of authors, please don't have a narrow idea of what is of interest to the Asian Journal, because we do have an Asian focus, but we're interested in multiple methodologies. We're interested in topics that are of concern to all international lawyers. So, please give us, you could say, an opportunity to engage with your work.
Hsien-Li.
Yeah, so I think we're much more active on social media now, thanks to Shahab and Eliana. So please follow us on Twitter and Facebook and whatever portals we might be introducing in the near future.
Yeah, so Asia is a vibrant and diverse continent. It deserves a vibrant and diverse journal, and that's what we're really trying to create here as we head into our second decade. Please read the journal, please write for the journal, please review for the journal, but keep that confidential. And we look forward to engaging you through our pages, through social media, and who knows, at some point at a future meeting of the Asian Society of International Law. Definitely. So thanks to Hsien-Li, thanks to Tony, and thanks to all of you for paying attention this far through a little video, and we look forward to catching up with you in person, virtually, or in print somewhere soon. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks, Tony. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.